I mean, my theory is that someone came in through the basement window because it was a new Samsonite suitcase also sitting right under the window. And you could have gotten into the house without that, but you couldn't have gotten out of that window without something to step on. And to even have known those windows were there wouldn't have been obvious to someone who just was walking by. Unsolved.
Episode 215, JonBenet Case, John Ramsey's Basement Window. This episode is about the basement window well and the broken plane, and for you to see if you think John Ramsey is telling the truth about this incident. And so, on the screen right now is from The Death of Innocence, in John Ramsey's words, in the year 2000, after his police interviews about his experience.
Got to do something, I think. Anything. Whatever will get JonBenet back. Sometime that morning, I remember a day back in the summer when I had left my keys inside and was locked out of the house. To get in, I broke one of the panes in a basement window. Then I reached in and released the latch so I could climb inside. I think about the basement now. I jump up and hurry down there.
So he wasn't in the basement, he was on the first floor, and then he went down to the basement.
That entry place needs to be looked at, I tell myself. I move down the basement hall and find the window. The pane is still broken and the window is open with a large old Samsonite suitcase sitting right underneath it. Odd, I think. This doesn't look right. This suitcase is not normally kept here. Maybe this is how the kidnapper got in and out of our house. The window ledge is a few feet off the floor, so a person would need something to stand on in order to get up and out.
Now this is John Ramsey's testimony in April of 1997, several months after JonBenet's death. And you mentioned when you went down in the morning, the 26th, and the window was unlatched. Did that strike you as odd, or did you bring that to anybody's attention?
I don't know. I mean, when I think it probably struck me as a little odd, but it wasn't. I mean, sometimes that window would be open because the basement got hot, or one of those windows would be open, so it wasn't.
So here I created this timeline for the morning of December 26th and the afternoon. And the times are just estimates or rounded off to a near time. So they're not precise. So Patsy called 911. The police arrived at 6 a.m. Friends arrived at 6:20. Reverend Overstock arrived at 7. Burke went to Fleet's house at 7:15. John Fernie went to the bank at 7:15. John Ramsey thought about the basement window around 7:45. Have no idea when this happened or if it happened. And he went down and saw the window open just a little bit, and he closed it and latched it. John might have been thinking about the intruder entering there. Fleet and John Fernie returned. Linda Arndt arrived at 8:10. Arndt told John how to handle the call at 8:10 to 8:30 or so, and they put all the recording equipment on the phone. No call came by 10 a.m. No call came by 11. No call came by noon. No call came by 1. You can see this is a long period of time with Linda Arndt with all those folks. John and Fleet went to the train room after Linda Arndt told them to look around. Apparently, John or Fleet opened the window, because in the videotape you can see the window open. They looked around for glass, and maybe John planned the intruder going through that window at this moment.
So I went back down with Fleet. We looked around for some glass again. Still didn't find any glass, and I told him that I thought that the break came from when I did that last summer.
Now, John Ramsey did 2 police interviews. One with Detective Steve Thomas and another detective in April of 1997, and another one with Detective Lou Smith and a detective in 1998. And so now I'm going to provide a clip from that one. What made you decide to go downstairs?
I just wanted to start logically from the bottom up, I guess, as I was looking at it, and I would have just as easily gone upstairs, but I went down, probably just logically going through every inch of the house. So I went down to the basement. I went into this room with Fleet. I explained to him that this window had been cracked open and I closed it, that the window was broken, but I think it was broken by me once before. We got down on our hands and knees looking for some glass, just to see.
What did you find?
I think we found a few fragments of glass, not enough to indicate that it was a fresh break.
What did you do with those fragments?
We might have put them on the ledge, if I remember. It really wasn't much. We had only found 1 or 2. We might have put them up here on the ledge.
Could you have put them on the suitcase?
Ah, it's possible, but I don't remember doing that.
Next, I provide John Ramsey's testimony to Detective Steve Thomas in 1997.
I said, this window's broken, but I think I broke it last summer. It just hasn't been fixed. And it was open, but I closed it earlier, and we got down on the floor and looked around for some glass, just to be sure that it hadn't been broken again.
And Fleet had talked about earlier being down there, I think alone at one point, and discovering that window. When you say that you found it earlier that day and latched it, at what time of day was that?
I don't know. I mean, it would have been probably before 10 o'clock.
Was that prior to Fleet's first trip down?
I didn't know he was in the basement. I didn't know that. I mean, other than that trip with me.
And on that trip, you latched a window? Were you alone when you went down and latched that window?
Yep.
And on this, what I'm assuming is only your second trip to the basement on the 26th with Fleet, how much time did you spend in the basement before moving to the cellar room door?
Not very much time. A minute or so. Probably less than that.
Now, this final clip is from John Ramsey's testimony to Lou Smith when Mike, detective I believe, Mike Kane, was asking him questions about when he went down to the basement the first time that morning.
Well, there were some boxes, and there was like a bar stool kind of thing sitting there. It wasn't obvious to me that anybody had gone through because I had to move the chair to get in, which I did. And then I came back in here and I noticed the window was broken, which fits from when I did it. But the window was open slightly.
It might have had a little latch or something?
Just this little latch, but what I did specifically notice was the suitcase sitting under the window. That was not. That didn't fit. I could explain why the window was broken, or why it might have been partly open, but the suitcase just kind of jumped out at me.
And you said that you had previously taken that down? I think you said you took it down to the laundry room. Are you talking about the second floor laundry room?
No, I think it had been up here for a while. The kids had gone in. They unpacked or whatever. Maybe it was in this room. It was somewhere up in this area.
Okay, I thought you meant the laundry area.
No, the second floor, because I took it down to the basement, but I just kind of sat it in this room. We weren't terribly neat, so putting stuff away was kind of a progression. So it got that far, but I absolutely did not move that.
Here is the basement door. So this stairway is right below the main stairway. So right about now we're facing towards the street. So I'm using this video to recreate John's first trip down to the basement when he was alone. And when you get down these stairs and turn right, you can see all the clutter and the chair that he said that he had to move to get into the train room. So looking this way, back there is the wine cellar where JonBenet's body was found. And then to the right to the right, this door here is into the train room. And you can see this chair or whatever it is blocking the doorway. So he moved that to the side to get in there.
You have been watching a Nancy Drew show. Please subscribe and I'll solve this crime.
Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and tomorrow night we'll look into the Zodiac Killer case. And stay tuned for this little outtake after this. This is a part of John Ramsey's testimony about remembering how he moved the suitcase to the basement several months before.
I remember taking it downstairs to clean up, and I think I just kind of sat it in this room here.
That would be in the hall.
Just in the landing and the hall area.
Okay.
But I'm 99.9% taken. I wouldn't have taken it all the way back and set it against the wall.
So I stand a 99% chance you're telling me the truth, and a 100% chance you're just gonna walk out of here on me.
No, you're getting the ransom note confused with my testimony.